Welcome back to Articulate with Steve McJones. This week, Faliere Dieujuste. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce it, but I met this character actually going to get fingerprints for my new job, and kind of just hit it off talking about people you should surround yourself with and the community that you build to get to the next level and kind of learning and grow. That whole thing. You know how that whole thing just happens randomly sometimes. But yeah, I was very intrigued by the way that he articulated his words, and his background was extremely interesting to me as well. And he seemed really, really comfortable talking about deeper topics with substance behind them, and was very comfortable talking about making a comfortable place for everybody to feel at home. And when he said that to me, I was like, well, you yourself seem very comfortable and at home a lot of the time and talking about this stuff, so would you like to come on the podcast and do it? And he's like, well, I actually used to be in broadcasting. And it just kind of worked out, which was great. And so I went back and we recorded this episode. We covered so many topics, and I could talk to this guy for... I really do. Faliere, if you're listening to this, I definitely am going to come back, and I'm going to get you back on, just by the way. I hope you know that. But he's a very, very artistic individual, and you could tell, obviously, when he talks about it, how much art and creativity really mean to him, and how he had to really harness that and use that with him throughout his life and his transition from Haiti to America, and how America really affected him and that whole process for him. We get into quite a bit in this episode, but we started out with how he was born in Haiti and kind of his background over there, and what it meant really for him to up and leave that whole environment that he had lived in and built a home at. And yeah, you could just I cannot even begin to imagine what he had to have gone through when he moved over here. But he got through it, and he was here talking to me about about this whole thing. You really take for granted your background and your family and your hometown sometimes, and when you listen to a story like this, it really puts that into perspective for you. So really excited to get this message out there. Faliere, thanks again for coming out, and I hope you enjoy and get as much out of this as I did. Yes. Okay. All right. Faliere, is it Faliere or is it Faliere?
Faliere Dieujuste.
Dieujuste.
You don't have to cover my last.
Okay, well, I want to make an effort to try and get there.
Faliere Dieujuste.
So Faliere, so tell me where you born, and yeah, basically we'll just start with that. Where were you born?
Okay, I was born in a little village called Gilbert, a section rural of Dessalines. I know you don't know much about Haiti. Okay. Dessalines is basically one of the first capital of Haiti, and you probably heard about Jean-Jacques Dessalines, which is basically the father of liberty of Haiti. That city, basically after that, moved to Saint-Marc, which is one of the major cities, and from Saint-Marc, and then that's where I did basically my kindergarten and going into, over here we're talking about high school, but in Haiti the schools are kind of differently.
Sure. Just
like we're looking at almost like the European system, because Haiti was also a colony of France.
Okay.
And
so did you have any siblings over there?
Oh yeah, my mother passed away. She was she lived her life, and but I have a brother and a sister. My mom dad had married, right. But my father had other kids. Back then, till this day, those are the things that they don't pay too much attention.
Right.
Because here, before you know it, you can get in trouble for having 2 or 3 women. Yeah. But back then, especially for those people within the age, my father's 85 now.
Yeah.
he had a lot of women, my friend.
Sure.
And
Imagine.
and he had a lot of he has a lot of kids, and they're some of my siblings I don't even know because they're like with other mothers.
Yeah. Well, and you'd be surprised. That's not only native to Haiti. I worked with a guy who his grandfather had like 65 children spread out over like 4 or 5 wives. So yeah, it's quite a bit.
That is no. The reason I say that, it just when we compare a little bit from the whole time till now, where a lot of things the women of today will not take from you guys or from us.
Right.
If you were to have a wife, and you better know that if knowing that you with another person or so, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
Plus, in this country, I don't think you can afford to do that.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that's what I was saying. I left Saint Mark, and then I went to Port-au-Prince, and all along, it's like learning from different people, different individuals, music, poetry.
When was this? How old were you around this time?
You know what? I started in poetry at a very, very early age.
Really?
Like, I remember the first poetry that I actually read, I was about 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was about 3 years old.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I have a love for the art, for poetry, for music, as a human being.
Starting to try to be a musician or an artist, something like that, because you want to make money, because you want to do a job. That's the wrong way. You have to do this because you love it. And it doesn't matter if you broke, you still gonna do it. I mean, I go out to jam sessions and I play regardless of whether I'm getting a check or not. It's about whether you have to love this thing, man. You have to love it and breathe it. And it's your morning coffee. It's your food. That's why you become an artist. Art is a mirror of society.
That changed me to be a little bit not in the sporty side. When you're a young boy, you like sports.
Right.
I'm always in sports, but not like the other, because music and like poetry, like things like that,
a lot more.
they are basically priority to me. And because of that, I've dealt with a lot of people that are kind of older than me.
Okay.
And those are the people that kind of shape my way in
Right.
as I go.
So so at this point you said, I'm not sure where we were. Like you said, the education system is a little bit different. So was there like an age where you started learning more and more about this stuff?
Oh no, definitely. You're learning in Haiti. I call that a little. To me, it's a sabotage. As a teacher, living in this country now, when you go back to the third world countries, places like Haiti, because you could be like in elementary school and then learning all kind of different things over 4 or 5 languages. I mean, the language that you have to learn. French is, first of all, that's the language the education was into. So basically, you were forced to speak the language that you were not born with.
Right. Wow. That's
a problem.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And your name is actually French.
Exactly.
Your first name is.
So basically, to be in school and then learning from a language that is not yours in your own land, that's a big problem. But you wouldn't know that if you did not,
Start out that way.
But you started that way, and question is why my mother's tongue was never really accepted. Why was I able to just come up and then learn the ABCs in the Haitian Creole, they call it. But then again, as you grow, you start understanding, you talk to other people. I remember my Tonton Tiok, we call him, is a guy that I studied up, and he also one of the art director, like playwright, and he was one of the best. He speak French in his house with his family, but never wrote any of his play in French.
Oh wow!
And everything was in versification in Creole. And those are the things that stuck with me in my early days.
Right.
Saying that I don't understand that. Papa Tiak, we call him. We always sitting around him in the afternoon. That's where we learn about a lot of things about life. And the part of the circle, it will teach us about almost everything that we need to know. And after school, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we write. He's in his little rocking chair.
Yeah.
And then talking to us.
And you said he would never write it.
He always said he has one of his favorite line, J'ai passé ma nuit avec Molière, which is basically I spent my night with Molière discussing this and that, because Molière is one of the French writers.
Okay.
And then he always used that a lot.
Okay.
And so because poetry, music, and things like that, most of the Haitian writers will always refer to someone in France somehow.
Okay.
Because they are basically, because in Haiti, the French culture was dominant until this day.
Wow.
And luckily, in about 85, Jean-Bertrand Aristide made Creole to be one of the official language of the country. That made also Creole to become very popular, and then the studies become vividly.
Yeah, and that learning all those languages must have been very, very stimulating for you. And it's also, I did want to say something about the decision for him to always write in French. Is that what you said? Or he always wrote in...
The decision, right? I mean, till this day, to be honest with you, it's not political reasons. I still don't know why, because that's the question I wish I could see him and ask him now.
Yeah.
Because when I saw that, and not until I came here, remember, I came here when I was 16 years old.
Okay.
So when I left Haiti, 17, 18, I'm sorry.
Okay.
When I left Haiti, I left the towns of Saint-Marc at the age of about 14, 15 to Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti.
Please excuse the violent-sounding crime scene unfolding in the background. Thank you.
And then from Port-au-Prince, I spent about 2 years, and then I came.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what you right.
See? So there's a lot of things that I'm now. When you get all of this at this little age, consume music, poetry, arts, and all these things, and then those are the things that I've known. I don't know how could I live. I had my own literature group where we had our own little circle, just like we discuss about almost everything. That also samples that we were taking from Papa Tiak.
Oh wow!
See,
yeah.
So not only is teaching us things, then we go out there and create our own little circles.
And then in that case, you're the one teaching or sharing.
Sharing
the life.
It's just one of the few.
Sure.
And to make it even bolder, we used to go to the mountains.
Wow, that's amazing. That's pretty cool.
On Saturdays we will just leave very early, and at the time Haiti was like very prosperous in a sense. You go out there, the sugar cane is there, the mango tree is there, everything that you need. And then when you go in those little places where there's a lot of the inhabitants of those places, when they see you coming from the city, they are more than happy to give you whatever you want.
Really?
Yeah, come and get some. Come and get some mangoes. Come and get some sugar cane or whatever you want.
Yeah.
We used to we used to go for the day and then coming back, let's say in the afternoon, and with a bunch of things that we carried.
Just a whole bag of things that they gave you for free.
For free, because that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
You go to a place. You can go to a place. I mean, that's the way it used to be.
Well, I've had a teacher that went to like Vietnam, and he said that people on the streets down there were so nice, giving them free soup, and
yes,
it's when you get out of the city into the small towns, and they recognize that you are from somewhere else and want to show their hospitality.
Hospitality was always at its best, especially till this day. Even though there's a lot of politics and things that's going on there, it's always one of the very first thing that make country like Haiti very unique. Just remember, even before slavery, all right, just to get in the little side of history, we're not going to get too deep.
Yeah.
Haiti was the only country in the Western Hemisphere. If you are running away for persecution for anything, once you set foot in Haiti, you become a free person.
Really?
Yes, till this day. And Haiti is the only, that's Haiti. Remember, Haiti got its independence in 1804. That's the second to the United States, which they don't tell you about that.
Yeah, no, they did.
And Haiti did not stay alone after independence. He went around and liberated all the countries around.
Oh, wow.
Whether it's Trinidad, Jamaica, all of those islands.
Yeah.
And every single places there were slaves. It's like, it was like, I don't know, for some unknown reason, you'll find Haiti somewhere. Haiti even helped the, what do you call that? I can't remember the name right now.
But he did happen to remember later. Here's that clip.
No, the country that Haiti was talking about was Greece. You can Google that if you want.
Oh,
yes.
Greece. You
Yes.
thought of it. It came back to you.
It came back to me. That was Greece. And until this guy said, "Oh, I'm going to send you 100 people." He said, "No, 100 people? What can I do?" Man, the president said, "Man, my 100 people, each of my guys worth over 100 of yours."
Oh, my God.
Now that Haiti was really, had, and then plus a bunch of, we call coffee. There was if you Google it, you will find that thing. But, just for the sake of things, I would never, no, the country that Haiti was talking about was Greece. You can Google that if you want.
Oh,
Yes.
Greece. You
Yes.
thought of it. It came back to
It
you.
came back to me. That was Greece. And until this guy said, "Oh, I'm going to send you 100 people." He said, "No, 100 people? What can I do?" Man, the president said, "Man, my 100 people, each of my guys worth over 100 of yours."
Oh, my God.
Now that Haiti was really, had, and then plus a bunch of, we call coffee. There was if you Google it, you will find that thing.
But anyways.
So when you're looking at the way that we were brought up and then come up here, it was basically
Extremely different
it was
background.
extremely different.
A note, the note that I was just gonna say about the whole language thing, all the languages that you were learning. I just remember there's this movie called Amadeus about Mozart.
Yes.
You seen it?
Yeah.
And they have to choose what language the opera should be in, and they're so against it being like German because German is too rough, or they want it to be Italian because there's like a certain, so it's interesting to see from somebody's perspective who knows multiple. How many languages would you say that you're at least fluent in?
You know what? Let me tell you this. From experience. When you are being yanked out from birth into a different knowing where you have no business of being, you become crippled.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Because simple fact is, hey, if I am, there's reasons why I can go in and start to learn any language. And according to studies, since I've become a teacher, after I did my study and things like that, which we can brush up to in a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
Then that's when, if you don't have a language of your own, it will be very difficult to learn another language.
Right.
So yanked out the language of your birth.
So it's very important to you to have that birth
Definitely.
language. Right.
If you don't have that,
That the Haitian Creole?
the Creole.
Creole.
If you don't have that, you don't have your culture. You want to be like someone every single day. Where is yourself?
Yeah.
Yourself is gone. You know, you hear it so often. The little Haitian will say it. Je suis un petit Français perdu sur cette terre d'Haïti, meaning that I am a little French that has been lost in that land of Haiti.
Oh, really?
Basically, that person is gone. From the minute that your thinking process is that way,
Yeah.
where is yourself?
Yeah, that's that's a crazy question. So, do you think in Haitian Creole? then?
No, my friend. Yes, fortunately, thanks to Papa Tio, emerge into the language at an early age.
Right.
To poetry, music, arts, plays, because I kind of had so much of interest in, and I did just like that. I started my writing. If you go to Facebook or YouTube right now, you'll see some of my writing there, and even with my voice, even though I'm gonna change that soon. I have Pitimi Sangado, which is a poem that I wrote basically when I left Haiti after my mom passed away. I went to the funeral, and then when I saw what I saw after I left Haiti for so long, I was basically in a great shock. And
I can't imagine. I can't
when I
imagine.
saw this country that I've known, that I've left, and then I saw what I saw, and that's when I wrote a poem called Pitimi Sangado, and it is also in YouTube. I had once you get to YouTube, you might see about one or two or three poems that I put into. It's a lot of things that when you look at yourself, just like you were saying, because what a man is without his culture. You know, without your culture, without your language, without your roots, the person that you're meant to be, if that is being taken away from you since birth, you are missing a lot of the puzzle, my friend. Yeah.
Do you feel that? At all?
No, luckily, fortunately, I feel very, very grateful, and then it's always an honor, and I feel very fortunate.
Well, so to kind of bridge the gap to this, because I want to get to that. I want to understand how the context about how you got to feeling better and grateful about it.
Well, take it about. One of the best things that happened to people like myself is to come in a country like this. The United
And
States
so
of
was it
America.
your decision to come over here?
My decision to come here was not, it was part of my decision. It was a funny story, okay?
All right.
We have a friend of mine. We used to compete in school, but he was in the Catholic school. Catholic school in Haiti divided in two parts: girls' schools and boys' schools.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I was in private school.
Okay.
My private school, that's where I learned music. And I learned how to play the trumpet and things like that. And we did poetry.
And the
music
poetry,
and things.
right?
And to make it short, his name is Jackie. His parents always send him to the United States every summer.
Oh, really?
So
You kind of just came up
Yes.
with them one summer?
You should see that, man. Every summer, before September, around August, Jackie will come. And we used to do what we call every Sunday, we go down to the city, we go to movies, all of us, because we live in the upper, and then all of us would go down to the city.
Okay.
And then to go to movies, almost like every Sunday. That's one of our rendezvous.
Okay.
So every Sunday, everybody gathered a little money, and then we're going to movies. It's like the whole crew.
Right.
It's like, but when Jackie comes from the United States, it's a different thing,
Oh.
because even the way you walk has changed.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like with this little Levi and then sneakers, white tees and things like that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was walking with that little, the hump and down and things like that. Everybody was like, wow. Everybody was to at least have that feeling, and then they can go ahead and then do so,
Yeah.
And then, not until that, and then somehow, my father always wanted to send me, but I did not know I was going to come to stay.
Okay.
And until, one of my sisters passed away at an early age, and then that's my closest. And then he saw that I lost a lot of interest in about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he spoke to my older brother, who happened to be in the university studying medicine. And he told me that, what do you think? If you want to go, if you go to the United States for the summer and things like that. Well, at that time, thing was not that difficult, but it was not that easy at the same time.
Okay.
Because, we're okay.
Sure.
We're okay.
Right.
Not saying that we got this or that, but we were living comfortably. We're okay. So when we got to that point, and then I got my visa and things like that, and I remember I came for 21 days. But it was 21 days, my friend. It was that 21 days till this day. That's when it was 1985, 84, 85, and then there was a lot of problem in Haiti, and then the Duvalier, which is Baby Doc, was about to leave the power, and then there was a lot of problems, for people like myself. In Haiti, you call yourself a poet, musician,
Mm-hmm.
and plus the type of writing that I used to do was basically it's for the people. We were basically
A little rebellious.
yes,
Little rebellious.
And there are times they don't there are times there will curfew that is say that you cannot be at a certain place where the 2 or 3 people cannot be grouped up together.
Oh wow.
There are times, there's a lot of things was going on. Mm-hmm. And then when I came, things just went out of it become very
out of hand.
Out of hand.
Yeah.
So my father told my brother, this boy can't come back. He cannot come back. Okay?
Man.
He knew that he wasn't going to send me back anyway.
Oh, really?
Because I've already had that feeling.
Oh, wow.
Because, I was the youngest brother of my siblings. My mom and dad, they were married. And I was basically the one they could not control.
The rebel. Right.
Because of the person that I am, and I'm always for the people, pay for something. And that is greater than me. I mean, I've seen people first. And then we did not like that.
Okay.
And before you know it, then I came here, and then I'm here.
It harnesses that kind of that feeling. I think a little bit personally.
It was not easy, my friend. I was my peak.
Oh yeah.
I was on my peak, man.
Yeah.
I was just like my trumpet was my best friend. I had so many good friends, people and things that I was doing. I've already had 2 or 3 groups of artistic people that I was dealing with, and I was a little, for a little man like me, it was very, very, very important.
Right.
At that age,
Mm-hmm.
to be doing all this, and there was so many things that was put to place. Then again, now you're in a country where you have no one basically. Of course, I had my brother, and my brother and he left me when I was very little. Mm-hmm. My older brother, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Sorry.
May rest in peace.
Yeah.
Good guy. So what I'm saying is the people that I was, like my literature group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those were all in
my musical friends.
Yeah.
There's the artists that I used to play with. Mm-hmm. We were doing a lot of theaters. We were doing a lot of stuff. Plus, I'm in Port-au-Prince now,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm getting crowd from Port-au-Prince to Saint-Marc. Moving back and forth.
Okay.
Then it was a lot of. Plus, I used to play in 2 different. We call in Haiti. We call that. It was like fanfare, like you call it big band.
Okay.
Those things like that.
Sure.
We used to play funerals a lot. Wow. So I would finish up school at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And 2, 3 o'clock, I just put my uniforms on and then start going to play funerals and
Oh man.
and pay 1 or 2 I used to make a lot of money, man.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
just a little bit like me making over $10 each. $10 was a lot of money.
Oh, I can imagine.
Some people working for the government couldn't make $10. And you know the funny thing is, I do nothing with this because it was not truly needed, to be honest.
Okay.
And well, so this was basically what I meant when I said no, the country that Haiti was talking about was Greece. You can Google that if you want.
Oh,
Yes.
Greece. You
Yes.
thought of it. It came back to you.
It came back to me. That was Greece. And until this guy said, "Oh, I'm gonna send you 100 people." He said, "No, 100 people. What can I do?" Man, the president said, "Man, my 100 people, each of my guys worth over 100 of yours."
Oh my God.
Now that Haiti was really had, and then plus a bunch of we call coffee. Mm-hmm. There was it's if you Google it, you will find that thing. But
Such a satisfying moment, just all around, just very satisfying.
yeah.
So you said moved to America, and you were getting taken away from these groups and this atmosphere that you had many friends and many instruments and all this artistic things happening for you, and then you moved to America, and what happened?
Well, you know what? From the minute that my brother told me that, I spent a couple of weeks and not truly eat or do nothing because I was very somewhat depressed.
Well, for good reason.
Yeah, and you know, after a while, your judgment will come to play. And this is my home now. Whether they accept it or not, I will learn how to accept it.
Right.
That's the first thing. Second, you're gonna make it your home.
There's no place like home.
It's my home.
Right.
The first thing I did, I told my brother, "You gotta take me to the place so I can buy me a trumpet." And I have my own money. And he said, "Okay, no problem." That Saturday, we went to the place. We bought the trumpet. Mm-hmm. Then I started doing my practicing and so I'm moving away from. Then I started school in September.
Oh, in
Yes.
America?
In America, yeah.
Wow.
I started high school. I graduated from East Orange High School in '87.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
When I went to high school, that's when things started. That's everything started changing.
Oh wow! Then you must have really felt it. Being in school, in high school with those.
Being in high school, remember, think about it.
What state, city?
No, New Jersey.
New Jersey. I was
East
here.
Orange.
Oh, okay.
And funny that is, I went back and taught for almost like 15 years
Oh,
in the
really?
same town.
Same town.
Yes.
That's great.
I did elementary as a bilingual teacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I got to East Orange High School, I looked up that little city that has so much problems, difficulties, and then I started going to the same rhythms that I've known. And that's when I started looking at similarities. The first thing I do, I look for similarities between the problems that occurred when I was back home and here. The second, I'm looking at the unwanted or the menace that I call it that we used to get from other people, basically our own kinds, and find the reasons why. And the third things, and find into this, where do I fit?
Right.
All this thing here, and all that, I can't find. And luckily, my music teacher, which happened to be Mr. Robinson, he enjoyed being around me. I enjoyed being around him.
Okay.
So we played music. I didn't know much of English. I can listen because I learned English in Haiti, but speaking it It's different.
Different, much
So you will be able to learn to listen, to hear a few things. But luckily, the trumpet was talking for me. Okay.
Yeah. But Mr. Robson made you feel kind of almost at home.
Exactly. With you, exactly. You know, musician. The only thing is when you become part of something, like even sports. If you have once you get to the group, to that circle, you feel wanted.
Right.
Because you feel like you
are part of
part of something, and among of the people that you can, even though if you can't speak the language, it does not really truly matter. And at that point, and I graduated in East Point High School in '87, and it was not because it was not easy, my friend. It was not easy because remember when you left home, you already was going toward this direction. Now here you're come here,
and it's
you have to start crawling again.
Oh yeah,
like a baby.
Yeah.
You're in a country where you have no mom, no dad. You basically had nothing.
No,
you are studying. You don't even have anything to start, and not having the right subordinates, family support that you needed, and things like that. You could have been crippled.
Yeah.
And that's what crippled most of foreigners, you know, especially when they come in this country so young.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, just. But you know what? That's what I've always used the word grace. Because it wasn't up to me, man.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna ask. So, how did you, progress through that? How did what helped you get through that?
Well, two things I've always had in mind. The first, I've already know where I wanted to go.
Oh, really?
Definitely. Since I was a young little man.
So even in America?
Even in America, and I know there will be a way, there will be a place, there will be a door open for me.
Okay.
Because even in America, I didn't even know. The first thing I do one day, I start walking around Main Street to William Street, and I'm looking at those streets where I go all the time, and before you know it, I've already I see, or have an idea, or the problems that I might be facing.
Okay.
So let me just start getting ready for that.
Right.
And
so what was that goal though? What was that image?
The goal is to never stop.
To never stop.
Always try to do my very best to fill my brain to the rims.
And so that even from Haiti to over here
till this day, that's why I'm still in school.
Yeah.
I won't stop until I get where I need to go.
Okay.
And luckily I had a father always said, do things right, and money will follow you.
Right. I've heard. Yeah, my father said so.
Yeah. And from those saying, and we always look at the age that I am. I've always used the same concept. I'm always back home to get the minimum simple things that people might not pay any mind to. That's what I live with every single day.
Right.
So with that
really helped you
definitely
get through
before
that.
I can get down, and then the minute I start thinking of those reality of Papa Tiok, Toto music, my father, my mother, and before you know it, you will see me back again.
Bounce back,
because one thing I believed in, if you had the right, there's nothing right, to be honest. Once you start getting a certain age, there are certain things that was already been given to you, even when not knowing, they can never be deported from you. They will never.
For example?
For example, the little custom, the little way that the things that you got from home at the early age, they stays with you.
Right. They can never take that from you.
No one can take that away from you. Just like education.
Right.
Before all those balonies that you go to, all of those, there are certain things that you got from home. Like, for example, people like yourself from
Ohio.
From Ohio, but I'm talking about your native.
Like my family? Oh, like Ireland?
Yes.
Oh, right. The Irish.
Those things, they are incarnated into you.
So even deeper than that.
Unfortunately, some of us, when we come to this country, we tend to make believe that we forget them, but that's not the truth. We know.
Yeah.
Once you start touching the hardcore, all this comes back.
It's just in your genetics.
Yes,
really.
it is. When you see a certain other guy that probably play tough guy, and before you know it, and something major happen, man, I wish I was home.
Yeah.
Where's my father?
Very true.
Because simple fact, those are the things that keep you as a human being, it keeps you online. A lot of people come to this country, the first time they see you, I don't know about you, they call Haitian, but people go back to their countries. I've learned and heard all that.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Education was foremost my first priority.
Yeah.
And I've gave that a lot of consideration and have a lot of respect for anyone from any culture that come here in this country, especially people like myself. I'm not trying to minimize that.
Sure.
When you come here and then you don't have the right support and to continue schooling, because that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Because not only you're doing schooling, and plus you got to take care of a family, including, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
So when you looking at yourself and then try to looking at other things that's happening. So now the second thing I was saying, being able at least to kind of understand other cultures and system that is around us.
Oh, okay.
Systematically speaking, that's why I am grateful being in America.
Okay.
Remember when we were talking, I always said to you, the only place you can find America is here.
Right.
If you go to Ireland, for example, the people of Ireland, or the land of Ireland belong to, that's the only thing that's happening. But when you come to America, the vast of majority, the culture, the people, the things that it's just amazing. It's a school by itself.
Yeah, just so much to take in and learn, and so many cultures and and people and all that, all sorts of different. Like even you and me right now.
Yeah, definitely, look at that. Look at the path of a way that you came, and then my path of a way to be connected right now and communicating at the same time.
Right.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah. So. No, that is.
Yes, think about it. That's what I'm talking about.
That's something that kept you going. That idea.
But in reality, if you were just stuck up to one nest, I mean, even though when I said if you was not one nest in so to speak, because this is one nest right now. But if you're stuck up like I am from Ireland, I should not be talking to someone from Haiti,
right?
Or this and that. Or whatever, I am too American, or I am too this and to that.
Right.
Then you miss out the boat.
Yeah, you miss all.
Yes, you miss out all the good stuff.
All the fun, yeah.
And that's exactly why a lot of sufferings here in America.
Because so many people turn away.
So many people. When you come to realization, each time you're too much of anything, you cause a problem.
Each time, what was that?
Each time you're too much of anything,
then it causes a problem. Just because.
Because too much of anything is a problem.
That's very fair. Yeah, very true.
But if you're willing to be here, understand that there must be a reason for you to be, which I embrace after my little, morning time, drop off the tears and I left home, this and that. I was this and that. No. And there's home. Where is home? That's the question I've always asked. Where is home? Home is nothing but the limit of your shadow.
Wow.
That's all is home.
The limit of your shadow.
Yes. If you stand right now, take a good look. Days or night, wherever your shadow is. That's why I remember there was Alexander the Great, one of the best, they said.
One of the greatest.
Greatest,
Right.
they said, not me.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, he did kill a lot of people, that's for sure.
That's very true, very true.
And there was a sage, right? The sage was very, very powerful. There were two things that, and he wanted to kind of said, okay, he wanted to see the sage and then to kind of reward him for being who he is. The sage always walk around with his lamp and things like that. And then wherever he, feel comfortable, that's where he spend the night.
Oh, really?
Those people, the sage or yogis, they don't
The
have home.
The nomads, right?
Yes, they always like that. And when Alexander the Great came around and then asked him, for people like yourself, what can I do for you? What is it that I can do for you to show you? I forgot. He did something that moved him for him to say that.
Right.
He said, he looked at him straight in his eye. He said, unblock my shadow or my light.
Unblock.
And you do me a big favor.
Wow.
That's what I don't, and think about it clearly.
Sure.
Once you're alive, there are certain things that, because you're living in this country, for example, everybody's after something. Wealth, intelligence, this and that.
Right.
But the question is, after you go, where would that be? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're living in the country, which is one of the greatest countries in this world.
Sure used to be.
And you know what? To be honest with you, that's one of the safest countries in this world.
One of the safest.
Yes.
Really?
You know why?
Why?
Think about it.
You say America?
Yes.
Is the safest?
Think about it. Think about it.
Because
Even with all this turmoil, whatever that is happening, America is the safest country in this world.
I don't know. Because you have the power to protect yourself? Or?
No.
Yeah, I don't.
If you take power, if you're talking about power, if you take China
Oh, yeah.
and China and India, you put them together, you do.
Right.
Or if you take China by itself, you could be in trouble because there's not anything that you have right now that don't have China's name in it.
Right. Fair enough.
Okay?
Sure.
Because remember, we said that America is the greatest country in this world. It's just because it's only in America you can find all the countries.
Oh, okay. Right.
Makes sense? Because if you have children here, right? When you're married and then you have your wife, family, and things like that.
Sure. If. Big if.
Yeah, big if. So, it is a big reward for a person like yourself. You're working hard. You're doing everything that you can. By the time you go to be at a certain age, I mean, to have a family is a reward.
Right.
It's just like to take your money, everything you're worth, and then to be giving it to the community, to the people, to serve the community is the biggest reward.
Sure.
But when you have a family, just like you have a pet, you have anything, that's the only way you will learn how to be compassionate.
Sure.
Because those people can get on your nerves.
Right, exactly.
That's the only way you will know that this is the purpose of my being.
Sure.
But
let's not get caught up on the whole having a family thing.
So what I was saying about America, just to give you a scenario, even if you're from Ireland, I still have the French accent. That's why it's so difficult to pronounce the R.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Ireland?
No.
Ireland.
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 It's a bunch of practice for me, man.
It's okay. It's okay.
See, think about it. But Do you know the first obligation you have to?
Is it
Some people would say God,
sure?
And
Family.
family.
Right.
So if it is family, for example, your hometown, your home country is in war with America, who do you think you're gonna fight for?
Oh, wow. So between like if Ireland and America were in a war, who would I fight for?
Yes.
You would fight for Ireland, I
No,
guess.
you will fight for your children first, man.
Oh,
Wherever
right,
your
right,
children
right,
is,
right.
that's what you'll fight.
Right.
Because those are the first thing that you have to protect first.
Sure.
Then if there's anything, then you go to a country. You see, all I'm doing basically, I'm following the protocols.
Right. The theory, the leans,
Exactly.
the titles. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's exactly why, and we as people will always hope that we will do our best to keep this country at pace.
Because
Simple fact is, we can't afford to miss anything home or here.
yeah,
It's a two-way street.
Two-way street, right.
You know, it just, and what if the biggest problem we also have some bigotries. We have some other things that was incarnated with the birth of this country that caused a lot of people not to come to that realization.
Right.
Because of that, then not too many people see it that way.
Okay.
They might be calling foreigners this and that.
Right.
And then from time to time, the things as, but then again, it's all things that is made. Luckily, thankfully, within the 21st going to the 22nd century, things has changed tremendously.
Sure. Oh,
You
yeah.
see the inclusion.
Right.
Inclusion of basically now people can be doing whatever here in this country, and then before you know it, they can go to your country or to China and they work, and then 5 days here and then 5 days there. So the globally speaking, we will become more inclusive now.
Right. And that's great.
That is great. And then plus, another thing that happened, now the market does not dictate by just a few people.
Sure. Of course.
It's the people dictate
The market.
the market.
Right.
So a millionaire can be made right now as we are talking. No one has anything that they can do or say about
they
it
can do it. Yeah, because
because of technology.
good time to be in. Good time to live.
No, this is the best time ever in this whole entire planet. Because you gotta understand, not only you have everything at your side, people live longer.
Yeah.
Even sickness, unfortunately we saw what COVID-19 has been doing, and still working toward deficiency, things like that. But the people that had it prior to us, they had.
Oh, they just got wiped out. If anything like COVID, it would happen.
Because
Yeah,
they didn't have what we have today.
Right.
And even though it was very unfortunate, our norm has changed from that point. It will never be the same. But gradually, we are living into a different atmosphere, and hopefully that will be a new wave, a new way of looking at life.
Yeah.
Because some people did not value life until COVID-19 came about.
Right.
Knowing that you can be dropped dead in 1 minute.
Yeah, or everything.
That's not a simple cause.
Or shut inside.
Yes, shut inside, shut down, and then think about how many days you spend inside the house, could not go anywhere. Or if you go with a mask in your face.
Right.
Before then, you go with a mask in your face, the police start asking you a question, right? Something wrong with you.
Yeah. True. Right.
If you're not Muslim, you're not. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And now we start looking at those little things that was priceless now become inevitable in our life.
Oh, wow.
They were priceless.
Right.
We did not pay any mind to that.
Right.
Who would think that somebody can just come up and then shut down the whole country for so long?
Nobody.
Nobody can do that.
Right.
Nobody.
Faliere, I'm sure you and I could go on for days and days about everything. But I think we've reached a point right now that it would probably be pretty good to at least, cut it off for now. But I would love to hear at some point. I mean, we stopped at, just that period after your graduation. And I'd love to continue and hear more about how your life in America developed at some point.
Definitely.
But for now, I think we've reached a point where we've covered COVID, we've covered America, we've covered Haiti, we've covered all sorts of different topics, and I think this would probably be a good stopping point. So I do want to thank you so much for telling me at least this part of your story, and really teaching me a lot of things that you learned along the way.
Actually, we were learning from each other, and I appreciate the fact that I like you have a great sense of humor, and I think that you want a good. The reason why I'm sitting with you, and I think you're sitting with me, just because we both want to get somewhere,
right?
And try to get that unison going,
right?
And get closer to people, especially, and I think you're doing a great job. And when the first thing I did, I spent a few time listening to your podcast and things like that, and I saw the humor, and then I saw the almost of the thing that you want to do. It's good stuff for humanity. And you know what? If you can put yourself that way, there's not any doubt that no matter who, they will applaud you and then respect that, because we need more of that, more inclusion.
Sure,
more
absolutely.
Knowing that we not alone,
mm-hmm.
and once we put ourselves together, this whole universe become way better.
Yeah, way better.
Way better.
Way better.
And to be honest to you, I have great feeling that we are striving, but we're on our way too. Because remember, whatever we got to do for this universe, if we don't want to do it, we will be forced to do it.
Right.
Just like certain things that we see happening around us. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate the fact that we take that little moment.
Yeah.
And by all means, I'm here whenever you need me, man.
All right,
See
man.
me hello, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great, though.
Good. No, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes.
I like that. He says, I'm here, whenever you need me. So definitely going to take him up on that. Really good talking to that guy. And you could just tell, like I said, how much that artistic and creative side really meant to him, and how he had this whole image and everything, this entire life set up for him, where he was in his peak with his creative ability, and he was surrounded by these people that were pushing him. He was making money through it, and just was completely stripped away from him. And like I said, it really gives you perspective on your own background. Yeah, if you're interested more in learning about what he does and looking into some of his poetry, I'm going to go ahead and link his YouTube page down below. And I'm really glad that I got to talk to this character. So thanks again, Faliere, and thank you all for listening. Thank you. I love you. Amen. Okay, bye. After we recorded this, I left, and then I was like 2 minutes away, and I was like, shit, I forgot to get a picture with Faliere, so I drove back, and he's still in there, like, shuffling around, working, and I come in, I'm like, hey, would it be okay if we got a picture, or you, like, can, like, just send me one, because sometimes that's how it works, but he was like, oh, I got you, man, and we were, like, setting up our phones, and he had these lights that he used for filming online classes to just, give him better lighting. And he was like pulling them over, plugging them in farther. They were falling down, but we were having a good time. It was fun. It was a very fun time.